Ideas too dangerous to teach, they called him mad, dangerous, even evil. Friedrich Nietzsche wasn't just a philosopher. He was a cultural earthquake. A man whose words were so provocative, so radically different from anything the world had heard, that they still echo uncomfortably in lecture halls, religious institutions, and governments today. God is dead. There are no facts, only interpretations. What does not kill me makes me stronger. These aren't just quotes, they are philosophical bombs, and they're not meant to comfort you. They're meant to wake you up. Nietzsche wasn't interested in making people feel good. He wanted to force people to see the world as it truly is, without illusions, without filters, without lies. This video isn't about watered-down philosophy. It's not going to give you feel-good aphorisms or surface-level self-help tricks. What you're about to explore are the very ideas that got Nietzsche cast out of the academic world, condemned by the church and misinterpreted by history itself. Ideas that society doesn't want you to think about too deeply, because if you did, you might start questioning everything. You might stop obeying. You might stop conforming. You might start thinking for yourself. And in a world built on systems of control, whether religious, moral, political, or cultural, there's nothing more dangerous than someone who truly thinks for themselves. Nietzsche's work dismantles everything we're taught to accept without question. Morality, he said, most of it was born out of weakness and resentment. Religion, a crutch for those too afraid to face the reality of life without a cosmic father figure. Truth, an illusion, useful perhaps, but ultimately subjective. He didn't offer solutions in the way people wanted. He offered challenges. He handed his readers a mirror, but it didn't flatter. It confronted. And that's what makes him so dangerous. Forces you to ask, what if the way I've been living, thinking, and believing is all based on fear? What if everything I thought was good is just a lie told to keep me tame? Friedrich Nietzsche was not an easy man to understand. His writing is poetic, often cryptic, and laced with metaphor. But beneath the complexity is a core of raw, unsettling truth. He looked around at modern life and saw decay. People worshipping comfort, equality, and conformity while calling it progress. He believed that to truly live, to become powerful, to become you had to burn away those illusions. You had to become willing to walk alone, to suffer, to create your own values. He called it becoming who you are, a task most people will avoid their entire lives. This video will take you deep into Nietzsche's most controversial and forbidden ideas. Truths that mainstream culture is too afraid to teach. We'll explore 7 of his most dangerous philosophies, breaking each one down in a way that's clear, direct, and brutally honest. Whether you've never read a word of Nietzsche or you've wrestled with his work for years, this is your chance to see the side of him that most people never dare to confront. These are not ideas for the faint of heart. But if you're ready to question everything, morality, faith, identity, even existence itself, then keep watching. Because once you see the world through Nietzsche's eyes, there's no going back. War on morality. Before the emergence of nature, society had held on to the idea of morality as sacred, stable, and universal. It wasn't simply a set of rules, but something that defined existence. In Western civilization, there was an unwavering belief in a clear-cut division between good and evil. This binary was enforced primarily by religion, with Christianity acting as a guiding force. To be good was to embody humility, obedience, and selflessness. In contrast, to be bad meant embodying pride, ambition, rebellion, or selfishness. These characteristics weren't just seen as personal flaws, but as moral failings. For centuries, philosophers like Immanuel Kant attempted to create a rational, unshakable foundation for morality. They sought to establish that moral truths were absolute, unchanging, and applied universally. According to this framework, lying, for instance, was always wrong, regardless of context or situation. Moral rules were seen as immutable laws, much like the divine commandments of religious traditions. This traditional view of morality was deeply entrenched, not just in religious institutions like the church, but also in society at large. It permeated the very fabric of culture, influencing laws, social norms, and personal relationships. It shaped people's identities, their sense of right and wrong, and their understanding of how to live a virtuous life. But then, in the late 19th century, a radical thinker emerged, challenging the very essence of this moral framework. Friedrich Nietzsche, through his provocative ideas, threw a grenade into the established concept of morality. He didn't just question what society considered moral, he questioned why humanity even adhered to morality in the first place. Nietzsche asked the fundamental question: who benefits from these rules? Who created them? His questions weren't just intellectual, they were existential. He asked us to look beyond the rules and consider the power dynamics at play, the hidden agendas that morality might serve. Nietzsche proposed that morality was not an objective truth, but a social construct, designed not to elevate human beings, but to suppress and control them. He called this slave morality. The two moralities, master versus slave. Nietzsche's philosophy proposed two types of morality: master morality and slave morality. Master morality originates from those who are powerful, self-assured, and independent. These individuals do not seek approval or validation from others. They live on their own terms. They are leaders, warriors, artists, and thinkers who do not ask for permission to create their own values. For them, the concept of good is defined by traits such as strength, creativity, courage, and self-reliance. Being powerful, proud, and successful is seen as virtuous. Weakness, cowardice, or lack of inspiration are considered bad. In stark contrast, slave morality arises from the oppressed, the powerless, and those who feel incapable of changing their circumstances. This form of morality flips the script. It celebrates humility, obedience, self-sacrifice, and meekness, while condemning strength, pride, and success as evil. For Nietzsche, this was not true virtue, but a form of resentment. He argued that the weak, unable to compete with the strong, had found a clever way to control them. They moralized their own weakness, recasting their fear as humility, their submission as virtue. This shift in moral thinking, Nietzsche argued, was a way for the powerless to undermine the power of the strong. Over time, this narrative became so deeply embedded in culture that it was no longer seen as a construct but as an eternal truth. Nietzsche saw this as a dangerous illusion, one that held humanity back and shackled individuals to a life of bitterness, guilt, and suppression of their potential. Nietzsche's critique of morality. Nietzsche didn't just challenge individual moral rules, he attacked the entire system. His critique was not just about questioning outdated moral principles, but about undermining the very foundation of morality itself. He believed that morality, as it was understood by most people, was not a path to human flourishing, but a mechanism of control. The institutions that upheld these moral values, whether religious, political, or cultural, were not interested in elevating humanity. They were interested in keeping individuals small, docile, and obedient. In Nietzsche's view, traditional morality suppressed the instincts and desires that could help individuals grow, become independent, and live authentically. Instead of encouraging people to push their limits, to embrace their desires and ambitions, they were taught to feel guilty for wanting more, to suppress their natural instincts for growth. Morality, in this sense, was not a set of universal truths but a strategy for social control. Mastering the will to power. Another key concept in Nietzsche's philosophy is the will to power. At its core, this idea isn't about domination or imposing one's will on others. It's about life itself, in a drive that pushes all living beings to grow, expand, and become more than they are. The will to power is the force behind all creativity, ambition, and transformation. It is what drives a tree to grow through concrete, what pushes a child to speak, a thinker to question, a dreamer to act. For Nietzsche, true power isn't about domination over others, it's about power over oneself. The highest expression of the will to power isn't found in violence or tyranny, but in self-overcoming. To live authentically, to create your own values, and to refuse to be defined by society's rules and norms is the ultimate expression of the will to power. Eternal recurrence, the test of living fully. One of Nietzsche's most profound and unsettling ideas is the concept of eternal recurrence. Nietzsche asks us to imagine living our exact life, every joy, every pain, every failure and success, repeated forever. Not just once, but endlessly. Would you welcome that thought, or would it crush you? This is a terrifying idea for many, especially those who live with regret or fear. The thought of reliving every mistake, every moment of pain, is unbearable for most people. But Nietzsche uses this as a thought experiment to ask whether we are truly living the life we want. If the idea of eternal recurrence horrifies us, maybe it means we are not living authentically, but merely coasting through life, avoiding challenges and suppressing our true desires. But here's the twist. Nietzsche doesn't want us to dread eternal recurrence. He asks us to embrace it. If we can live in such a way that we would willingly relive every moment of our lives, no matter how difficult or painful, then we have truly embraced life. We have affirmed it in all its complexity, in all its beauty and suffering. Beyond good and evil. The collapse of morality. Nietzsche's Beyond Good and Evil challenges the very foundations of moral thinking. In this work, Nietzsche argues that morality is not a divine or universal truth, but a human invention shaped by culture, power, and fear. What is considered good in one culture may be seen as evil in another, and what was once regarded as virtuous can become condemned in a different time or place. Nietzsche believed that most of what we consider morality wasn't created by noble individuals, but by the weak, those who couldn't win through strength or creativity, and thus turned to guilt, shame, and fear to control others. For Nietzsche, this was the origin of slave morality. It's a morality that seeks to suppress the strong, to ensure that the weak remain in control. Nietzsche argued that true morality must come from within. It must be created by the individual, not inherited from society or religion. This is where Nietzsche's philosophy becomes radical. It forces us to question the very values we live by. It asks us to create our own values, to live authentically, and to reject the moral codes that have been imposed upon us. The Übermensch, the ideal of self-creation, the concept of the Übermensch, or overman, is one of Nietzsche's most famous and most misunderstood ideas. The Übermensch is not a superhuman or an elite ruler. It is the ideal of personal evolution, the individual who transcends the limitations imposed by society, religion, and conventional morality. The Übermensch creates his own values and lives according to his own truth. Nietzsche's Übermensch is not about domination or superiority over others. It is about mastery of oneself. The Übermensch is someone who creates meaning in their own life, free from the constraints of traditional moral codes or societal expectations. This is the ideal that Nietzsche believed we should all strive for. the courage to live authentically, to create our own values, and to rise above the herd. Amor fati, embracing life's struggles. One of the most transformative ideas in Nietzsche's philosophy is amor fati, the love of fate. This is not a passive acceptance of whatever life throws at us, but an active embrace of every moment, every hardship, every failure, as if we had chosen it ourselves. Amor fati is the ultimate affirmation of life, including its pain and suffering. Nietzsche didn't want us to simply endure suffering. He wanted us to love it, to embrace it as a part of our growth and transformation. This philosophy challenges the modern obsession with comfort and happiness. It asks us to confront the painful parts of life and to find strength in them. Instead of running from hardship, Nietzsche calls on us to turn it into something meaningful. Nietzsche's legacy, the call to live authentically. Nietzsche's ideas are not for everyone. They require courage, strength, and the willingness to face uncomfortable truths. Nietzsche challenges us to move beyond the moral codes, social norms, and inherited values that have been imposed on us. He asks us to create our own values, to live authentically, and to embrace the total responsibility for our choices and our fate. Nietzsche's philosophy remains a challenge to the status quo, a call to break free from conformity and to start living on our own terms. It is a philosophy for those who are willing to face life in all its complexity, to embrace their struggles, and to create meaning where none is given.